Welcome, everyone, to Zoom into Books today. We are live here with Don Helin. He is an international multi-award winning author. He's got quite a collection of books published by Headline Books, and he's going to be here with us today talking about his book. So, Don, welcome to Zoom into Books.
Well, thank you, Kathy. It's really great to be here, and I'm looking forward to talking to all my friends on our Zoom. And also, with questions, if we have some questions, please let me know, and we'll do our best to take care of them. What I'd like to do is just go back a little bit and talk about how I got into publishing, and then talk about early books because I find out I'm really fortunate. I've got a great group of friends in a book club here. In just a couple weeks, I've been invited to talk about a particular book, Buried Relics, which I'm happy to do. But then I realized that doesn't give people a chance to hear about some of these other books. And I thought if we had a tape up that I could say, hey, go check that out, and it would really help. So let me just go back real quickly. I spent a 28-year career in the Army, and then I woke up one day after I retired, and I said, "Who am I? What am I going to do? I got a wonderful wife and some kids, and I don't know what I'm going to do." And there's not a big demand for a guy that can write Army regulations. So I looked around and it fell in by luck, and it's just was the best thing in the world. I saw an ad, the Washington Post was having a travel writing symposium. And I said, man, Elaine and I like to travel. She's a pretty good photographer. I bet we could really do well with that. So I took it, and then actually we went back to after we retired from Washington, we went back to where Elaine and I had met. I was at the Army War College, and she had a nice country home, and so we went back there, and all of a sudden I realized here I was, a travel writer in a county in Perry County, which is a beautiful county, but it didn't have a stoplight in the whole county. So it told you a little bit about it. And I didn't think the bears and deers would really appreciate it, but you start and you take what you got and you start with it. And Perry County had a weekly newspaper. And I had a good friend as the editor. And we started saying, hey, what should we write about? And I think that's the secret to travel writing, find interesting subjects. And then I guess the folks saw it in the Harrisburg paper. And then I kept going, various uh, magazines. And gee, for 7 years, Elaine and I traveled. And I would we were up in Canada, I'd write about that, and I'd come and I'd send out articles to several newspapers and really enjoyed it. And then, after 7 years, I just got the bug to write novels. And I love suspense thrillers, and I thought, well, let's try. So I was very fortunate here in Pennsylvania. We have the Penn Writers, which is a statewide writers group, and I joined them. And then I joined International Thriller Writers because I liked to write suspense novels. And my big break came when I'd sent out, and I got a letter saying, "Hey, we would like to publish your book." And I said, oh, I'm ready to go. Life is good. And I got my first book published was a little mass market. And I thought, man, I'm going to write another one and then we're going to keep going. And all of a sudden, I drafted another book. And then I got another phone call and said, we're sorry, but we're canceling our mass market line. And before you knew it, I was back submitting to publishers and agents and all that stuff. The fun was just slowed down a lot. And then, I mentioned I was at International Thriller Writers, and I was giving a panel there, and it happened to be there was another guy from Pennsylvania on the panel, and we hit it off. And the next year at Penn Writers, his publisher came to publish to the concert to make a presentation. And I saw her and I kind of sucked it in and said, okay, come on, go, go. So I went over and introduced myself. And I said, do you by any chance like to publish military thrillers? And you looked at me and thought for a minute and said, gee, I'm sorry, I don't think so. Well, there went my morale on the floor. And I turned around and you said, wait a minute, why don't you send me 3 pages and let's see what we can do. And it didn't take probably a month. And out came the possibility to publish my first book, headline with Headline Books, Devil's Den. And I've learned to listen to my publisher because, some of the information I provided to you today, uh, she said, Kathy said, why don't you write a memoir and tell that story? And I said, nobody is going to be interested in that. And here is, I hope you can read that. Here is I got an honorable mention at the English London Book Award. Can you imagine that? So I learned that you really need to pay attention. So let me tell you a little bit about Devil's Den because I really like this book. Now, what I do for all of my books is that I show it in usually set it in a place where I've been so I can adequately talk about it. Because setting to me is so important. And there's a lot of big words about setting, but to me, it's just where, who, what. Where are you? Let the reader know where you are, who's there, and what are they doing. That's the simplest way that I can put that. And so what I did is I started writing the Devil's Den, and it takes place in Gettysburg. And of course, that was the home of terrible Civil War battles. And it was only about less than an hour from where we lived. So we had been down there several times. And actually, Gettysburg is one of the most haunted places in the country, if not the most, because of all the soldiers who were killed. And actually, there's a Jenny Wade house. Jenny Wade was the only civilian who was killed during the Civil War battle at Gettysburg. She was in her kitchen doing baking bread when a shot came through the wall and killed her. And Elaine and I went to her house, and there was a medium there, and we talked about the ghosts. And at midnight, she had us go upstairs into the Jenny Wade's bedroom, and we shut the lights off at midnight. And all of a sudden, I, I could feel like something was playing with the hair on the back of my head. And so I was able to put all of that into Devil's Den. And what I said was that I had a friend, my hero, Zach Kelly. He's a series character, and I learned that because I was very lucky. The International Thriller Writers had a program called the Debut Author Program, and they would bring in some of their best writers to teach you. And I thought about Zach Kelly. So I really kind of liked him. So one of my mentors was Lee Childs, and I know Lee has done that very successfully. And I said, what do you think? He said, oh, absolutely, try that, which I did. And Zach now is appearing in his 11th novel. And there's a small family that works for the president's national security advisor. And of course, they get into all kinds of trouble. And so far, I've been able to pull them out. But anyway, the Devil's Den starts where Zach takes his friend to Gettysburg because she's never seen a ghost. And so she said, I just want to look. And of course, Zach has spent 3 tours in overseas in combat, and he has a minor case of post-traumatic stress disorder. So all of a sudden, excuse me, he has a flashback. And so he is periodically just can't quite remember. And all of a sudden he wakes up, snaps to, and she's gone. Where did she go? And the only thing he can remember is he kept hearing hoofbeats and shuffling feet. And of course, as he tried to explain it, you must realize what everybody thought of this nutso and said, what in the world is that? And so nobody will believe him. So he goes back to Washington to try to figure out what to do. That's where he works and where he and his friend worked. And an Irish um, shooter takes a pot shot at him and tries to kill him from the Irish mafia. So he's got to go to Ireland to find out why there's a contract on his life. Now you may say, why Ireland? Well, about 8 years before that, Elaine and I are both love music. We're musicians, and we were active with the Susquehanna Folk Music Society. And we went to Ireland for 10 days and had just a wonderful time. Went to the pubs and all that sort of stuff. And so what I did is had taken good notes. And so when I started with Devil's Den, I took the notes that I was doing. And of course, when we went across what I call the belt of Ireland, the central part, we were having a beer, playing music and stuff. And of course, people are shooting at Zach. That's what makes the difference. And also with him is a psychic medium, Sheila O'Donnell. She's Irish, and she's trying to help him figure things out. And so um, I don't want to tell you too much more because Zach all of a sudden has gotten himself, people won't believe him. And what in the world is he going to do? And so the with Devil's Den, then we continue to have him trying to figure out what happened. And I know I was just really delighted because of a good friend who's a New York Times best-selling author. I first met him through Penn Writers. He wrote a beautiful note for me on that. And so that was my first book, Devil's Den. And it's a book I'm very proud of. It got a number of awards. And that a lot of people ask me, do you have a favorite book? Of course, that's like saying, do you have a favorite child? But I sometimes will say, you don't have to, but might want to start with Devil's Den since that's the first one in the series. So that's the one we've had to do a reprint on because a lot of people like that book, but they're all good. So that was the first book. The second book is Secret Assault. And Secret Assault, I was in the military for almost 30 years, and I spent tours in Vietnam. And when I happened to be in Vietnam, it was the time of year where they had just uncovered what Lieutenant Calley had done in murdering all of those Vietnamese. And it was a terrible time. The country was just torn up over that. It really, as a military guy, it really sickened me. If you capture somebody and they're standing there, you don't shoot them. You turn into jail or put handcuffs on them. But he just shot down a bunch of them. And then that kind of gave me the idea, what if some of those people whose parents and brothers and sisters were killed decided to take retribution about some of the senior commanders who didn't do anything to stop that. Some of the people that actually did it. And that's the story of the secret assault. That's the story of secret assault. And it turned out that Zach's boss was having a retirement ceremony, and he actually had been a senior commander there, and he stopped it when he found out about it. But a lot of people didn't realize all the things that he did to try to stop it. And so what happened is at the same time that all that was going on, all of a sudden something happened that Zach's world was rocked by something terrible. Something happened to Laura. That's his daughter. Now, when we started, Zach was divorced, and he had one daughter who was lived in Minneapolis. Well, the his ex-wife ended up having some psychiatric problems. She took some drugs, started selling them, and ended up in jail. So Zach's daughter came to live with him. And of course, that what you're trying to do is make your characters believable. And what is going on with Zach now, not only does he periodically have a little bit of a problem with PTSD, but he's at work at the Pentagon, he's trying to save the world, he's got all these things he wants to do, and the phone rings. Dad, you're supposed to be here. You're supposed to coach my soccer team. See, this is what makes the characters real because people can see that. And I was really pleased that two of my friends, Hank Philippi Ryan, gave this a wonderful um, write-up. She said, fans of Tom Clancy and Vince Flynn will sign up for a no-holds-barred thriller written with a tough confidence and been there, done that access of a savvy author who knows his military stuff. And I had to thank Hank. Many of you know Hank, know the books that she has read. She's a wonderful author. So that was really very nice. Okay, book 3, Angel's Revenge. Now, what I'm trying to do sometimes is have two plot lines. So one plot line is this is the time period, and I try to pick out what's going on in the country at the time. And this is the time period where there was a lot of problems with sexual abuse in the military as well as in civilian life. So the book opens when Zach gets a call from a wife of a longtime friend. And she said, my husband was shot down in at Cape May. And it was pretty bad. He was murdered. He was branded with the word Dark Angels. He was dumped on the beach and castrated. And so something pretty bad is going on. So now they've got one plot line where it turns out that the uh, military officers are being murdered, where at the same time, Renee Garcia is Zach's partner. Her brother works for the Department of Defense, and they find out that somebody's hacked into the Pentagon and is trying to steal a military drone. And somebody tries to shoot her brother. So that's the other plot line. And so all of a sudden, we've got two plots. And well, one is going on while Zach is finding out something about these guys that are being killed. And Garcia gets into something. And if she has a problem, all of a sudden you say, hey, what's going on? And we switch over to what Zach is doing. So those are the two that we got. And I just want to read this one to you because I'm very probably the most proud of any of the uh, bios that I got. And this is from Washington's Corridor Power to a software company doing top secret work. Angel's Revenge by Don Heelan hits all cylinders in a riveting ride of revenge, greed, and murder. This is hero Zach Kelly's latest outline, and an outstanding one it is. You'll get the authentic inside look at the FBI, the National Security Agency, the Pentagon, and the White House, and more. While Kelly works selflessly to stop an assassin that makes your heart stop. Brand this covert suspense at its best. And this was written by Gail Linds. Gail Linds is the New York Times best-selling author of The Assassins, which is really one of the best thrillers of all. Plus, she's the founder of International Thriller Writers. So I was really pleased and proud that Gail took time to give me that blurb, and I felt good about it. Okay, that was book three. Do we have any questions so far? I've got a few more here, Kathy.
Hi, Don. We did have the question, what's your most favorite book? But
Yeah.
I think you answered that.
Yeah, okay.
And I wanted to remind the viewers, if you have questions for Dawn, please type them in the chat on our YouTube channel. We're live on Zoom into Books YouTube channel right now. Dawn has been a featured author at the American Library Association conference many, many times. He's, excuse me, also been featured at the Southern Christmas Show in Charlotte, North Carolina.
What a wonderful program that is.
So,
That's great.
and you're very active with pen writers too,
Absolutely.
right? So we're going to continue on with the next book. What's the title of the next book, Dawn?
Okay, the next
Long Walk
one
Home.
is The Long Walk Home. And this one, I had to say, I really kind of I enjoy them all, but this one is a little bit special, and I'll tell you why. My hero, Zach Kelly, takes his daughter to New York, Manhattan, for a vacation. And also, he's got an interest in trying to find out his dad, who was a New York cop, was shot down by a mafia assassin who, when he was working on trying to get stop the drugs. And so he wants to find out. He never really believed that his dad was given the due credit that he probably should have. So Zach said, well, let's go to New York City and I can double up. I can maybe talk to some people. And he finds out that as he starts going around and talking to some of the former partners of his father, they end up getting shot. So he said, there's something going on here. Now, I do have to tell you, the first year I went to International Thriller Writers, of course, it's in downtown Manhattan. And they hold it at the Grand Hyatt. And when you're a member of the people who are in the program, you get a discount. You only have to pay $290 a night. And I thought, boy. And then I found out that there's they call it a guest house on Staten Island that's run by the Coast Guard. And I could, if I got my application in advance, I could stay there for 90 bucks a night, which is a lot better than 290 bucks. And then, I'm a morning person anyway. So in the morning, I would jump up and hop on the Staten Island Ferry. And it would take me across to Manhattan. Then once I got to Manhattan, it's just a matter of catching a subway and off you go. And you always thriller authors are always thinking about what if. I can remember sitting there watching the sun coming over the horizon, shining on the Statue of Liberty. I mean, it was beautiful. And I said, I wonder if anybody would ever consider hijacking the Staten Island Ferry. And I thought, wow. And then you have to go back through your whatever, who might do that? Well, I don't know. Why would they do that? And how would they do that? And that becomes one of the plot lines in Long Walk Home. And of course, what happens is Zach's daughter was staying over on Staten Island, and he was working at trying to solve this other thing, and she's on the Staten Island ferry. And could it be when it was hijacked? If it's that, could be really pretty rough on Zach. So I think again, the nice thing about a series is that you can bring people back. After the first book, Sheila O'Donnell was very popular, my Irish medium. People really liked her. And they said, when are we going to see her again? And here she is in book 4. She comes in to help Zach try to figure out what in the world that they're going to do. Okay, so that's book 4. And again, if there's any questions or whatever, please let me know. Now, again, I guess I almost can get into too many favorites, but Roof of the World has got to be one that I feel pretty good about. Roof of the World, of course, is Tibet. Tibet is 12,000 feet elevation. And I always say, hey, I try to go places where I'm going to write about. So Elaine and I took a 10-day trip. We we landed in China, Beijing. We went up 12,000 feet, spent 2 days up in Lhasa, which is the capital of Tibet. And then on the third day, we went to Bhutan, and um, so we had a chance to see all of the 3 major countries there. And so what I did while I was there, I would take notes. In other words, when we'd go in and eat lunch, I'd make a few notes of what was going on or what they had to eat. And so people can get a real experience of what life is like in Tibet or Bhutan. And so on it went, and what we decided to do is that there's a lot of problems because there's a number of the Tibetan monks who have set themselves on fire in order to protest what the Chinese are doing. So as you travel around Tibet, you have to go through, it's like going into an airplane terminal. You have to go through a screener to see if you have any metal. If you have any metal, they'll take it away from you because you can't have lighters. That was enough to really cause problems for the Chinese. And actually, the United States, to include a lot of our government, helped the Tibetans against the Chinese. And of course, that ended in 1970 when we went to China and decided that we wanted to become their pals, and that's a time that all of a sudden we kind of pulled the rug out on the Tibetan people, and that was too bad. But we enjoyed thoroughly going to Tibet and Nepal and Bhutan. They're beautiful, beautiful countries. let's see, we maybe have time for maybe another one, and that's missing. I think now is a really a good time to think a little bit.
Dawn,
Yes,
let's take a quick break here. We have quite a few people watching,
good.
and I just wanted the audience to know, remind you if you have questions for Dawn, please type them in the chat. I'll be glad to get them to him. Don was also a featured author of Book Expo America a few years ago, when you were talking about your New York trip.
Yeah, that's right. That's
It's
right.
always a challenge and an excitement to go to New York City. And Don is also a Next Generation Indie Book Award winner. And I have posted the playlist of Don's videos on the Zoom Into Books YouTube channel.
Thank
And
you.
it includes several writing workshops. Don is an excellent teacher and coach too. So I just wanted to remind people that those are available. So Don, give us a quick wrap up of the next book, please.
Okay, we'll get with, I thought this might be a good one to end up with, missing. I wrote this 2020. And of course, we all know what was going on in 2020, and that was the presidential election, which you might say was kind of controversial and people got upset about. And actually, I was happy that the Lancaster newspaper wrote a nice article on it and compared what was in the book with what was going on. But basically, the theory in the book is high election officials are disappearing from the presidential election swing states. Then there's a nursing home, and I brought that in because we're in an over 55 community. It's not a nursing home necessarily, but an over 55 community. And there's a former four-star general, a populist candidate with a very radical agenda, who all of a sudden is soaring in the polls. And this was a little early in the AI area, but I did enough research on artificial intelligence, so I was able to bring it in. And the way we did it, we used a Chinese professor who were helping the bad guys work through, and what they were doing, trying to use AI to cook the books. That's basically what they were up to. And so as a result, the a lot of the people, uh, there was the two sides. Zach was trying to figure out what was happening, and Garcia went and got inside that group that was cooking the books. And so she's trying to do it from the inside. Zach's trying to do it from the outside. And you can imagine what happens with that. Garcia gets in trouble and all kinds of stuff. But that's what makes a fun book. So missing was one, and I couldn't help but think about now all the wherever you are, and I really don't care what your beliefs are, because whether you're left or right or up or down, all I want to do is buy my book. You'll enjoy them. That's why I try very hard to make them non-political, because you don't want to sit down and read any more political stuff. You just want a good story. And you know what I have found, I'm very careful with the way I write it, because what you want to do is almost put your reader in a fictional dream so they can get away from all this other stuff that's out there, and they can just be in that fictional dream and just enjoy and kind of forget about it. Kathy, you'll enjoy this. Elaine and I just got back from West Virginia. What a beautiful state. And we were at Cape Palm Springs. And you know, that is such a beautiful area. And they almost like, they have raised a flag at 8 o'clock in the morning, and the food and everything. It almost makes me feel like 30, 40 years ago. And there's nothing like that, to be able to just relax and enjoy. And that's what we're really trying to do with these books. So what
That's
we've
that's
talked
true,
about,
Don, and I appreciate the comments about West Virginia.
oh,
We
it's a
we love
beautiful
it
state.
here.
Yeah.
We do. Yes, we do.
The
And we're
I finished six, and actually we've got five more thrillers, and we've got. I want to maybe next time talk about some of our memoirs because we've got
yes,
that one on the
that would be good.
oh,
We'll have another installment and bring you back.
great.
Because we're just about out of time to,
Okay, great.
and this is kind of exciting. One of Don's newest books, Toxic Pulpit. We've had a request for an autographed copy, Don. So
Okay.
before we close out, would you like to autograph this book?
Yeah, you bet. And it,
It's going to go to Jerome Haverick.
okay.
We do virtual book signings quite often. It's always fun. And it gives the viewers a chance to talk directly with award-winning authors. Don is very prolific. All of his books are on Amazon and headlinebooks.com.
Here it is, and signed it to his
Terrific.
home, and enjoy Don Helin. So I hope that he does enjoy, and I would love to hear his comments. One thing I wanted to mention, if you go to my website, it's www.donheelan.com. There's a
Yes.
place where it says contact Don, and you've got my email. Please send me it. Send it to
And
me.
for
I'd love
those
to
for
talk to you.
those for those watching, Don will come and speak to your group. He'll do a workshop with for your conference, or if you've got a book club and you've read one of Don's books, contact Don or Headline Books, and we can arrange a virtual visit with the author
Oh,
after your
great. That
book
would be
club has read
wonderful.
the book. It's
Yeah,
very exciting. But I want to thank everyone for joining us on Zoom into Books, and Don will have you back next time.
good. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you again for all you do. It's terrific.
Well, you're welcome. And we'll see everyone next time.